Welcome back to another video. In this one we're going to be looking at the Volkswagen Taigo, which is in the Style variant. There's 4 different versions you can get for this car, being the Taigo, the Style, the Life and also the R-Line. So there's 4 different ones which just change the looks of the car and some standard features that it has. The Style variant right here, if you buy it new, is exactly in this model is going to cost you 34,000 euros, but you can get it for 28,000 euros at the Autohaus Wernigerode, which were kindly enough to give us this exact model. In this video we're going to be looking at everything that the car has to offer. We're going to take it for a test drive. We're going to see basically what it has and how good it is, and we're going to look at it. So hope you enjoyed the video and let's get into it. So let's take a look at the front. If you get a package above the Style or the Style itself, like this model, you get standard your IQ lights or IQ matrix lights, which obviously matrix lights is always nice to have because you can just leave your high beams on without blending the oncoming traffic. From the front, it kind of looks like the t-roc because, well, it's basically a crossover thing, but it's a t-roc, and in the back it looks like a t-cross, which we're going to look at in a second. We do have some intakes in the front, so there's some openings, and there also half of it is covered, half of it's opened, so there's some intakes for the front. You also have your daytime LED running light, which are pretty cool. You can see them when you're a little bit low because they shine pretty far down, and you also have LED lights on the side. And then if you would be getting the black design package, or the black Style, you would have all these chrome features in black, and that is basically it for the front. The side offers a couple of features. For instance, we have the 17-inch wheels, which look pretty decent. They are standard with the Style model. You could also option to get 18-inch wheels. And then if you get the the black package or black Style, you could get black wheels and some other black features. For instance, your daytime running light would have like a black features in there, which is another thing. But those are the wheels. So those are the 17-inch wheels, and then standard we also have all of these black designs as well as black trim on the windows, which is nice because I'm not the biggest fan of the chrome touches, so I think that looks pretty decent. We do have our side mirrors, which have a projection for your logo on the side, so your Volkswagen logo when you open it up would have that, and also your coming home and leaving feature, it has that as well. Down here we have this silver touch, which every model has. Don't exactly know what it's for. I would have rather liked if it was just black. But that is that. We have blacked out or blacked rear windows or tinted windows, which are pretty decent. And then further on we also have our 40-liter gas tank, which has a combined fuel usage of around 5.1 or 4.9. If you get the bigger engine, you're going to have 5.1, so the 150 horsepower 4-cylinder engine. And then that is basically it, as well as having some silver rails on the top, as well as a roofing capacity of 75 kilos or kilograms. And let's take a look at the back now. The back of the Taigo kind of looks like the T-Cross. For instance, you have the LED light bar, which looks basically the same as on the T-Cross, as well as having the logo on the back interrupting the light bar. And then obviously there's a couple of different features. For instance, it's a crossover, so you have a kind of a flattened out back like a coupe, as well as having this spoiler for some aerodynamic features, or rather a lip, not a spoiler. You also have your blacked out windows, as you can see, and then further on we also have some lights down here as well as parking sensors. These silver elements, you could obviously, if you get the black Style, you could get those in complete black, as well as the other things that I already mentioned. And further on again you have the silver look, which I don't think looks the best, and below that is your exhaust, which you can't see when driving behind the car. Let's take a look at the trunk, which offers some pretty decent space, so it goes up pretty easily. You just have to press it once. 455 liters you have in here, as well. If you flip over the front seats, there's no buttons in the back, so you actually have to do it from the back seats. 1,281 liters, which is pretty decent for a crossover. One thing I'm not the biggest fan of is the lip that you have in here, because it's kind of inconvenient. I'm not the biggest fan when there's always like the little lip out, but as well you have some storage space below, and it obviously also holds it in place, so you could put a spare wheel in here, or some extra whatever you have in there, as well as your towing hitch is in there, as well as you have a towing capacity of 1,200 kilograms, which is pretty decent for the size of the car and also the engine of the car. Let's take a look at the back seats. So how comfortable is the Taigo in the back? Well, first of all, we have seats that look like Alcantara, they feel like Alcantara, and they are Alcantara, so these are pretty comfortable. For your legroom, you don't have too much if you're above the size of 185 or 6'2". You're not gonna have that much legroom, or basically no legroom. I'm 6 foot or 5'11". One thing I'm not a big fan of is you don't have an armrest, so you can flip out. So you're missing 2 cup holders and also an armrest in general. And you also can't just flip out the middle section to put some skis in or something. You're gonna have to flip out the whole back row in order to actually put something through the middle, which is not the greatest thing. The material on the side also not very good. It's just some cheap plastic with not much. You do have a cup holder in here on both sides. With a pretty decent size. You could put pretty decent amount of bottle in there, or pretty decent size. And also down here you have a speaker for your audio system, obviously. You could also optionally get the Beats audio system, which is another thing that the Taigo has to offer. Down here we have two USB-C charging ports, and that is it. There's no climate control in the back, or no climber in the back. And then up here we do have two buttons for your lights, which I like because it's buttons instead of actually a touch sensitive area, for instance, like in the Golf GTE video that we had. So you can check out that review right up there if you're interested in that. So Volkswagen might have listened to some feedback and said, okay, let's put some more buttons in there. But we'll see about that with the buttons in the front. So let's check out the buttons in the front and take it for a test drive. Okay, so let's take the Taigo for a first drive. First of all, let's turn it on and then we'll quickly talk about some infotainment stuff and stuff like that. First of all, we do also have the Alcantara seats in the front as well. These are supposed to be small, like sports seats, the comfort sports seats, that's what they're called. I think every model has them, if I'm not totally mistaken. Down here again, we have a lot of touch sensitive controls, which I'm not a big fan of. But one thing I do like is that you don't have touch sensitive controls on the steering wheel. So the steering wheel actually is non-touch sensitive, so it has buttons. We have our 7-speed automatic gearbox by or DSG. We only have the 3-cylinder, not the 4-cylinder. We'll talk about that a little bit more once we're driving. And then we have a couple of buttons missing here because we don't have every single option. You also have a card holder right there and inductive loading. But that's it for the front. In the style package, you could also get the green interior, so it makes it green and some white and black colors. Like I said, I do like the fact that we have buttons on here instead of having actual touch-sensitive like controls, which makes it just a little bit easier to control. For instance, your different views that you can have in your digital cockpit. You can definitely feel every time you start the car that you have a 3-cylinder. It doesn't feel very smooth. It doesn't feel the most comforting because it has like this small roaring at the start, which doesn't seem like, it doesn't feel that great. And it feels like every time, it feels like you're driving a manual that is about to die when you're driving, which is not the greatest, but it obviously works. So what we have right here is the 1-liter TSI engine with 110 horsepower. You could optionally also get the 150 horsepower engine, which is going to be a 1.5-liter TSI engine, which is going to obviously give you a little bit more power with 150 horsepower and 250 Newton meters. So you're going to have 50 Newton meters more torque. But do you really need that? I don't know, because it's not a car that is meant to be very sporty or driven to be sporty. It's more of a car that is somewhat cheap. It starts at 20,000 euros, which is a pretty decent price for such a crossover. Okay, so the infotainment system. There's a lot of stuff in here that you can obviously do. It's the standard Volkswagen infotainment system, but there is no different modes for the car, so you only have one mode. You could optionally also, DSG, you could put that into the sport mode, so it shifts up a little bit later and more aggressive shifts. You do also have manual pedals, which you can shift by. So if I go into pedal, and then it's going to be in the manual 1 mode, and then obviously it switches back into drive if you haven't used it for a little bit. But obviously the sport mode in there as well, just to give you some more aggressive shifts. How is the ride quality of the car? The suspension is pretty decent. It's obviously not the most luxurious suspension. It's not the greatest suspension, but it's not too stiff. It is pretty comfortable. When you're driving over bumps, it bounces you around a little bit. So the bumps they don't feel that aggressive, which is good. From 0 to 100, you're going to be around 11 seconds. If you get the 150 horsepower option, you're going to be around 8.3 seconds, if I'm not totally mistaken. The car only weighs in at around 1.3 tons with a max of 1.75 tons, which is pretty decent. So it's actually lighter than the Polo GTI that we reviewed, that we had previously. You can check that out in the description as well if you're interested in that video. Let's talk a little bit about the assist that we have in the car. So there is IQ Drive that we have in here, which is, it shows you how fast you have to go, or you can go with the sign detection. There's, for instance, emergency braking up to 210 kilometers an hour. This model right here cannot reach 210 kilometers an hour, so it has that every time. You have a distance, also a distance keeper. You have lane assist. You have emergency braking, like I just said. Cruise control, that's what's called. Stuff like that. So there's a lot of features in there. So you could optionally also get some other features, for instance, park assistance and a rear view camera. You could get that. It does standard have, obviously, detector is in the back and in the front, where you're going. but it doesn't have a rear view camera from the standard. I do like the fact that with the style model you do have the IQ lights, which are nice lights. I do like those, and the daytime running light as well in the front, which is another feature for your safety as well, because you don't have to use your high beams and blend people in the front. We do have a section here for assistance, so we can press on there. You can see this package right here does have the IQ drive. Like I said, you have, for instance, sleep warning. If you're too tired, it's going to detect that and give you that annoying coffee sign in the front. Even if you're just not even tired, it's still going to give you that sometimes, which is not, I don't know, it's in the Mercedes. I haven't seen it how it is in here, but I'm not the biggest fan of the sleep control thing. So let's quickly do a turn radius test via, well, standing here, and we'll just turn it over. So full in, and then we'll see how quickly it turns. I'd say it's pretty decent for such a car, because it's obviously, it's 1.75 m long and also 4 meters and 27 centimeters, no, 4 meters 27 centimeters long and 1.75 centimeters wide, which is perfect for a city car in my opinion. So you got like capability, or you have a lot of trunk space, you have a good amount of space in the front as well, and it's easy to park because of its size. For the handling wise, it also, the steering is pretty direct, and you obviously can't change the steering because there's no different modes, but I do think that the directness is actually pretty decent, and the handling does feel pretty good. For 20,000 euros as a starting price, it's a pretty decent car, because you do have, for instance, your digital cockpit. There's a lot of standard feature that it comes with. Even if you opt for the style package, which starts at 28,000 euros, you have a lot of more features, or you have lots more features like the IQ lights and some other features which are pretty cool. But I think for that price, you can't go wrong with this car, because it does obviously have a lot of storage space. It's good for city driving, and in general, obviously, if you're interested in this car or any other model from Volkswagen, Audi, Skoda, whatever you want, make sure to check out the Autohaus-Gruppe, or the Autohaus Group, here in Wernigerode or in any other city that is around this place, because they have a lot of different places. So if you really want to check this car out, and if you're interested in getting it, make sure to check them out via the link in the description. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.